My name's Michael Ledger. I'm 37 years old, and I'm in Portland, Maine. I grew up 45 minutes south of Boston, and it's like everywhere in inner cities. There's all the different things you need to expect, like lots of gangs and drugs and crime. But I had a great childhood. But like as a young child, I was a problem child. I would lie, cheat, and steal at a very young age. I believe I was born an alcoholic. Now that I know, what an alcoholic is. So I had trouble in school, hated school. Went to church, hated church. Went to CCD, hated CCD. I started smoking weed at age 12 and never stopped until I was 36. And I never thought I would stop smoking weed, at least. From 12 years old to 20, I went from, all different types of hallucinogenics and ecstasy and acid and mushrooms, and then pills, all different kinds of small opiates and benzos. And then at 20 years old, I'm doing OCs every day. I did them every day for a year before I got sick, and then I was dependent.
Would you define what OC is? Is that Oxycontin or Oxycodone?
Oxycontin, yep. And by 21, I was an IV drug user with heroin. 21 years old, I wasn't drinking and stuff. I was just doing heroin. I did opiates for, a number of years, 10 years. I went to prison for 4 years. And around 2012, I got out, and it just started all up again. There was never really never any recovery in my story up until last year. 18 months before my last month of drinking, when in 2015, I gave up opiates. I kicked methadone cold turkey in jail the second time. And then in 2016, I got arrested again for it was like a drunken fight with someone I thought was my friend. I had to take a probation sentence to stay out of jail. During that 18 months of probation, I couldn't drink because it was an alcohol-related crime. But I could do as much drugs as I wanted to because it wasn't drug related, so I wasn't getting tested for drugs. So this last time, before the 18 months, it was rough. It was real rough. I ended up getting charges added on in the hospital for assaulting corrections officers, and I didn't even remember any of it. I thought that because I put down opiates and learned my lesson, that I could do the same with alcohol, not knowing, that I was an alcoholic. When I started drinking in 2015, I told my mother I was just gonna drink and smoke weed like a normal person, and obviously that doesn't happen. So I started drinking again. It was exactly 30 days. It was day drinking, night drinking. During that 18 months, I got a good job again. A couple of days later, I was supposed to go on my first paid vacation. They asked me where I was. Did I leave the building yet? They were asking me that because they wanted to breathalyze me and get it out of the way, because they knew I was drinking. I left the building so they couldn't breathalyze me, but they said, just to give you a heads up, a failing breathalyzer is 0.02 at work. So during that 30 days, I thought it was a good idea because I found this powder connect, cocaine powder connect, that I Didn't have for a long time. So I thought it was a good idea to start shooting cocaine again after not using needles since 2015. I got a whole bunch of cocaine, got a lot of booze, and I went on like a 24-hour run because I knew I was going to detox. And like I could have went to detox. I tried to section myself in Massachusetts. That's what I drank before I went to the ER. And they wouldn't let me section myself. If you say you're suicidal or something, you get a section 12. Section 35 through the state is for substance abuse.
Got it.
And
okay.
they put you away. They put you away for anywhere from 30 to 90 days. And that's the easy way to get, started.
Got it.
At a place that you can't leave, you're locked in. I called the union, and they're on call 24 hours a day. The guy who answered the call, his name's Tom Vitello, and he just celebrated 11 years in recovery. He's a big part of my story. We're still friends. He wanted to be up here for my celebration. He couldn't make it. But he does this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. He is, an advocate for union members in recovery, everybody really. He's in a 12-step program in Boston. So I called him and he said, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm at the hospital." And he said, "Okay, stay there." They came to me and said, "Okay, you're gonna come into the back and stay here." I had no idea where I was going. I ended up going to Worcester, Mass, to a detox. While I was there, talking to my union representative, Tom, I started getting a little bit of willingness to continue the journey. I always hated the 12-step programs. I always thought, why do I have to do that? Why can't I do it another way? Fear ran my life, as you know. Just fearful of not being able to drink anymore. Fearful of losing my job. Fearful of keeping my job. Just fear-based everything. I went to a program in Massachusetts. It's in Ashby, Mass. It's called Spring Hill. I've done Suboxone. I've done Vivitrol. I've done methadone twice. I've done Suboxone twice. I really didn't want to do that. The willingness continued. I wanted to, try it without it, and really that was terrifying to me. Everyone in that program is in recovery except for the higher ups. I gravitated towards them because they had time in recovery, years. And talking to them one-on-one, it was like, wow, you're just as screwed up as me. I met some really cool people. Some of those people aren't even alive anymore, and this was just last year. I had a spiritual experience there. It was like a culmination of, it was just like a realization, a massive realization. I was asking this kid for advice, and he said, "You want some advice?" He said, you talk too much, and you use that as a defense mechanism." And it wasn't what he said, it was just that I don't think anybody's told me truth before. They were scared. I had this realization of a bunch of different things in my life, and it all hit me at once, and I just broke down. That really, really fueled my recovery. I really wanted to find out why I was the way I was, and they didn't tell you that there. But the people that worked in the program told me of a place I could find that out. So I went to another treatment facility. I stayed there for, I don't even know, 70 days, maybe another couple months. And as soon as I got in there, we opened up the big book. It was like my memoir or something. It was just written about me. Like every page I've done or I've lived, and it was like another spiritual experience. Yeah, so I stood there. I dove into the program, to a 12-step program, and I started doing the work. And it was tough, that's early recovery. I still believe I'm in early recovery. I still feel confused any given day. At the first place I was at, the 28-day program, I cried every single day for no reason. I still had to be evened out on my medication. I had to get evened out on my medication multiple times. I did my 6 and 7, and by the time I left there, I was so much more aware of myself. I'm really grateful that I was able to go to treatment centers, and they told me, just you need to start taking suggestion, and that's what I did, and that's what I continue to do. I'm open-minded to everything. If it's suggested, I'll go over with my sponsor, and if he thinks it's a good idea, even if I don't think it's a good idea, or I'm not sure, I'm fearful of it, I go do it. I continue to work the steps. I meditate. I try to meditate every day. If I don't, I notice a difference. I sponsor a couple guys now, helping them go through the steps. I actually have an interview Tuesday at Green Mountain for a case manager position, which is kind of crazy. So we'll see how that goes.
One last question before we wrap up. I'm thinking about that guy who is waking up in the hospital room and doesn't know how he got there, or who is, getting thrown into that section of the jail. What would you tell him?
I'd tell him to do his best to surrender. And surrender doesn't mean giving up. Surrender means, giving up to change. You're not weak if you surrender. Try to be willing, just a little bit of willingness. I mean, I had the tiniest bit of willingness, and that carried me through my recovery. The other thing that's probably better than surrendering is being honest with yourself and honest with everyone else.